Welcome and congratulations. You found the Satori Show with host Amy Satori, your spirit guide to the unseen world. Amy's ability to communicate with and interpret for spirits in that world is simply amazing. Her mission is to use this gift to help people understand what's happening in their life so they can take positive action to move forward. So let's tap into this unseen world together and discover what our friends and loved ones on the other side have to say about our health, love, relationships, our pets, our destiny, and so much more. I hope you'll join me, Kevin McDonald, as we delve into our lives and the world we live in right now on The Satori Show.
And welcome to The Satori Show. My name is Kevin McDonald, and you're listening to us on the podcast, which is the satorishow.podbean.com. Please go there, review all of our shows. And I want to introduce the host of the show. Her name is Amy Satori, and we have a very special guest on the show today. So, Amy, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate the support and love from everyone who's been listening and all the wonderful comments and feedback I'm getting. It's been really wonderful and even life-changing for me, as well as I know some of you have had that same thing happen. So some magic is really happening through these podcasts, and just thank you. And the guest today that we have is none other than the beautiful, wonderful Jordan Maxwell. And he has given me permission to share how we met, which was really, and he can expand on this and tell you more of his perspective if he wants, but I was working as a reader, and he comes in, and he's got his arms crossed, and he just looks at me, and he says, you've got 10 minutes to tell me who I am and what I'm doing. And I was like, wow, this is one skeptical guy, I thought he was just, going to really challenge me, and so I was intimidated from him from the start. But I didn't realize or know who he was. So I just started to give him some information, and then he says, all right, you've got 10 more minutes to tell me more. I said, okay. And I did. And then a few minutes later, he goes, okay, I want to spend the rest of the evening talking to you, and I don't care how long it takes. I just want to talk to you more. And we both felt this immediate connection and felt like this was a meeting of destiny, and have been pretty close ever since. So how about you, Jordan? How'd that go for you?
Yes, well, I was very impressed with you because I know the world I live in, and so many people think that they are readers and that they're very good at what they do, but I have a different opinion. But I live my life by the Spirit. I just do things, and then I find out why I did it later. And so if I don't do something, I wasn't supposed to. And if I do something, then I was supposed to do it. And so it's always worked out for me. So I don't ever think in terms of what am I going to do, where am I going to go. I leave that up to God, so to speak. And so whatever I'm supposed to meet, whoever I'm supposed to meet, or wherever I'm supposed to go, that's where I'll be. And so I felt called upon walking around the village where your bookstore was, and there was a sign that says a reader at the bookstore. So I just felt, I think I'll do that. And so I went in and and I asked you and the owner of the bookstore, I asked you, do you have a reader, or is your reader here today? And you said, yeah, you're talking to him, goofball. And so so I got a reading from you, and I was very impressed. And since then, we have become very close friends. And I thank you for your abilities, because they were actually rather startling how accurate you were right off the bat. But I don't challenge anybody. I was just curious to see how accurate you might be. And because I've been around people who are extraordinarily gifted, and I'm always excited when I find someone who is, as there are, like, what was the what was this story in the ancient Greek world that that the guy walking around looking for an honest man, can't remember the name of it. There was a story in the Greek lore that Diogenes, I think it was, who was looking for an honest man. Well, in point of fact, actually, that was not what it really was. The story of Diogenes was not looking for an honest man. He was looking for someone who is what they say they are. And so that's me too. I'm looking for people who say that they know something about something and that they're an expert or whatever, and I'm looking for someone who actually is an expert. And so there's very, very few people who are really experts, and they don't tell you they are. They don't promote themselves as experts. You come to know them, and they become very important in your life because of what they can do. And I've had that happen to me many times. And so I was very impressed with what you were able to tell me about myself and about what I was doing. And so, from there, a very nice friendship developed. And that's why I'm very happy to be on your show. And it's very nice, the things that you've said about me, and I appreciate it. But I also keep in mind that Abraham Lincoln got a standing ovation the night they shot him. So I'm always, I'm always trying to stay humble. Yeah, I'm trying to stay humble.
Boy, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought about it that way. Now
he didn't.
Yeah, no, apparently not. Jordan, I just wanted to, for our audience, I just wanted to clarify. You are a producer, you're a writer, I suppose that and being an author are the same thing. You have done extraordinary amounts of research. You've been on over 600 radio shows, including Art Bell and some other wonderful shows and you've talked about a lot of the things that are out there, and you've done a tremendous amount of research. And you have a website. Would you like to let everybody know what your website is so that if they want to go to that while they're listening to this podcast, they can follow right along?
Sure. It's Jordan, like the River Jordan, Jordan, Jordan Maxwell Show. It's very important that you add the word show, JordanMaxwellShow.com. Because there are other websites out there with my name on them, but I don't own them. I have nothing to do with them. So other people are using my name on their website so that they can get, attention. So, but my website is JordanMaxwellShow.com. And Jordan, and also, if you're looking for the materials that I talk about, books and videos and whatever. There are two things you should do while on my website. One is to join my research website. The Jordan Maxwell Show is just my podcast general website, but I also have another website on there that's called the Jordan Maxwell Research website, and that is a massive website that you have to join, but it's only $30 for a lifetime subscription, and I'm putting all of the work I've done over the past 58 years on there, all of the pictures and diagrams and white papers and research papers and audio, video, highly recommended materials, everything I've been doing, all my professional life. Slowly but surely is going up on the research website. So if you really want to get into what I'm doing and who I am, then join my research society. It's only a one-time subscription for a lifetime. So that's that. And I guess the only other thing I would say is that I want to stress that my website is Jordan Maxwell Show. And I guess that's about all I can say.
And Jordan, one question, and then I'm going to kind of let you go with it because it's a big question, is you've been doing this for a long time, for 58 years. What is your passion? What drives you? Why do you do what you do?
That's a very good question. I'm fascinated with all of the darkness of this world. It's fascinating to me. I don't know how to explain it, but I came across the world I live in when I was about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old. I had an experience with my religious affiliation, which told me it opened up the doors to me to realize that adults today, generally speaking, adults are merely grown-up children. I mean, they were a kid like me, and then they grew up. Did they get wiser? No. Did they get smarter? No. They just grew up, and so they're grown-up children, and so they don't question anything. They're not inquisitive about much of anything, except maybe Paris Hilton and the football games, but most people do not think very deeply. They're very shallow, and they don't think very deeply about the world they live in and their very life in it. I was questioning why I'm even here and where did I come from, and thank God, where am I going to go when I leave here? And so I had all kinds of strange questions for adults that when I would ask my adult, my friends and all the adults around me, I used to question them all the time, and they would always stare at me like a deer in the headlights and never realizing, what am I talking about? Why am I even bringing these subjects up? And I don't know. It's just who I am. That's what I do. I've just got all kinds of questions about why we are where we are and where did we come from. And I would like to know, just for the hell of it, where we're going. And, and so now I begin to see that the world of mankind is exactly like the scriptures in the Bible say, that Jesus said, the humanity is like the ocean, like the waves of the ocean. And that's precisely exactly correct, and more ways than one. That we are like the waves of the ocean on the earth. One day we're all for some political leader, and 20 minutes later we're all against him, and we want a different one, and then we're going to be this, and then we're going to do that. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we just keep reaching out for something that's going to be better, and it never gets any better, because the real loss is in ourselves. I've learned a long time ago not to wait on anybody to help show me the way in life. I'll find it myself. Thank you. And I do my own reading. I do my own thinking. And therefore, I'm fascinated with the stuff that's really out there that nobody knew. It's all been sitting there in front of you, if you just ask. So that's what I do. I ask, and like the scripture says, knock and it will be open, and seek and you will find, and then ask and it will be given. Meaning the real dark answers to the world we live in our life is given to you. You don't just go to a bookstore or a library and sit down and read a book and you've got the whole thing. No, our world is filled with people who have PhDs and doctorates who have no idea they're even alive. They're so stupid. And they're bringing, no, seriously, and they're bringing the whole entire world of mankind to the brink of insanity and total destruction of civilization on the earth, and they all have PhDs. So, mankind's higher education does not give you anything but trouble and atomic bombs. And we say marriage is made in heaven, well, so are lightning and thunder. So as far as I'm concerned, nobody seems to be really asking the right questions. And so how are you going to get to a right answer if you don't even know what to ask for to start with? So I've just been looking at the world I live in and questioning everything. The more I question, the more I find that just blows my mind. And so there's something in me that wants to be a teacher. I want to tell people about all the strange things that I've seen and I've experienced and where I've been and all kinds of interesting stuff that's going on in the universe that unfortunately most people have no idea in the world about. And so since they have no idea in the world what this creation of humanity is and where we've come from and what is really actually going on the earth, we have no idea of, and therefore young people, people in general, but especially young people, are bored to tears. This is why kids take up drugs and alcohol and crazy entertainments, because they're just bored. And excuse me, and the reason why they're bored is because they have no idea in the world what's really going on the earth. And so that's what I try and do, is wake people up and tell them, look, at nothing in this world works the way you think it does. Nothing on the face of it is what you think it is. The whole world is far, far different than anything you've ever heard of before. And so I try and educate people to the best of my ability to think deeply about things and where they come from, and the etymology of words and ideas and concepts, and where did things come from, you know. So that's what I do, and I've done the best I could with it, you know.
Amy?
Yeah, one thing I really appreciate about Jordan is he has such he is that inquisitive child, and he's still seeking all the answers, and I love that about him. He's always seeking the truth and then telling the truth. So, and make sure that everybody knows what's really going on. But he's also, like, in that quest for knowledge and truth, he's willing to put his life at stake. He's willing to put it all out there and not care, because he's doing God's work. He's doing God's will in his life, and he's just wanting to help humanity. And he has been like almost, well, quite literally, actually, he's been to hell and back and survived it and has lived to tell about it.
Yeah, and I like this one quote that one astronomer observed once, that the universe is not only stranger than you imagine, it's stranger than you can imagine. You don't even begin to know what kind of universe we are living in. You know, we have no idea in the world who built the pyramids of Egypt. All we know is that all the things that we see in the world today, we cannot duplicate at all. The really extraordinary stuff we don't know anything about. And this is why, incidentally, universities, colleges around the world, and people with PhDs do not talk about the kind of things I talk about. It's not done. They just don't talk about the things I am interested in. And the reason why is simple, because they don't know anything about it. And since they're supposed to be PhDs with all this higher education, and they can't find themselves out of a paper bag, they're ignorant, ill-informed, self-centered, egotistical, self-righteous, and they know everything there is to know about everything except life. And so I just try and fill in the blank spots that people don't know. I mean, how many people know there's a pyramid bigger than the one on the Giza Plateau, sitting on the ocean floor of the Atlantic, 10 miles north of the island of Bimini, in an area called the Bahama Banks? There's a huge pyramid sitting on the floor of the Atlantic, and it's operating right now. It sucks in water through the eye at the top and blows out water at the bottom. So it's an actual operating generator of some sort sitting on the floor of the Atlantic Ocean, 10 miles north of the island of Bimini, and nobody seems to know, nobody seems to care, and it's probably just as well because you wouldn't understand it if I explained it to you. And so, but I'm fascinated with those kind of things, all the strangeness of the earth that we live on and all the incredible off-the-wall stuff that's going on around the world that you are not told anything about. Governments don't care to tell you about the really strange things going on the earth. And so, and I know why, because they can't explain it. They don't know what to say about it. And so to show you, to keep you thinking they're wise, they just keep their mouth shut. And I like what the scripture says about that. It says that it's wise, it's far wiser to keep your mouth shut and let everyone think that you're a fool, rather than open your mouth and prove it. So the idea is that educational institutions don't tell you the kind of things that I do. Why? Because they don't know anything about it. And so they would rather just not talk about it at all, because if they do, you're going to ask them to explain it, and they can't explain it. There is a book out that I was given many years ago. I'm 77 now, going on 78. But when I was 19 years old, I had an extraordinary man in my life give me a gift of a book, and it changed my whole life. It was called The Complete Works of Charles Fort, F-O-R-T. It was actually 3 books written by the same author, who eventually was put into one big volume called The Complete Works of Charles Fort. And what makes his book so astonishing is the fact that he has searched the world for all of the strangest things that have ever happened in our world and documents them. Every paragraph is documented, where he found the information, who wrote it, when it was written. And a book is a very thick book, heavily documented on strange stuff that has happened on this earth that no one can explain. Nobody. No one understands what happened. No one knows why it happened. It just happened. That's the kind of thing I'm interested in, because that's where the real knowledge is. When you find out how much you didn't know. And there was President Truman, the 33rd President of the United States. Harry Truman said one time, somebody said to him, President Truman, it's true that nothing, how does it say, there's nothing new under the sun. And he said, well, the only thing that's actually new under the sun is the history of the world that you have no idea about at all. That's really new. If you found out what's really going on this earth that you've never heard and you've never known, that would be new to you. Yeah. And so that's what I try and do, wake people up, to give them a reason to live, give them a reason to face each day, knowing that there's a world out there you have never heard of before, and it's strange and incredibly interesting. And why be bored? Why don't you just educate yourself? And so that's why I do what I do, because when I was young, I wanted to know. There's a big difference between wanting to know and being, and being bored just listening to somebody talk. I wanted to know, so I pursued knowledge and wisdom. And so I feel that I'm just paying back the world today for what was given to me. I wanted to know, and the teachers were there, and the great minds that I happened to meet, and the way that they molded my thinking and my curiosity. And so I'm just doing the same thing. I want to help those people in the audience And I know it's a minority, it's a very small number, but people who really want to know what's going on the earth today, I try and give them an idea about where to go, where to look, and give them links to people and ideas and philosophies that they've never heard of before. I'm fascinated with how you don't know.
Jordan, it's interesting because we live in right now in 2018 as we speak. We live in a very confusing time. You don't know what to believe. You don't know who to believe. You don't know if what they're saying is accurate or right or wrong. Or can you shed some light on what's going on and give us some resources on where to go to get the information that you're talking about?
Well, I would suggest you start by joining my research society on my website. Because what I have done is I have collected over the many, like I've said, 58 years ago, almost 60 years ago, I started pursuing knowledge and wisdom in a voracious way. I wanted to know who prints money. Why is paper money important? What value is there on paper money? Who it speaks for God? I mean, where did the Pope come from? And then what is the word God? God to me is simply dog spelled backwards. And so I began to realize that there's a lot of stuff out there in the world that's just it's a waste of time. And so I began pursuing knowledge on a very serious level and researching all the people who were writing and talking about important things. And then in researching the people who were speaking about these kind of things, it finally occurred to me when I was in the ripe old age of about 17 that there are secret societies, there are fraternal orders, gangs. One facet of gangs that work together. There are organized criminals, there's organized government, there's organized religion, organized banking, organized military. Everything's organized, but nobody knows what's going on, but it's all organized. And so I realized that the knowledge is being dispensed by people who are operating in secret. They belong to secret groups, they belong to political groups. Some of them are extremely evil, some of them extremely ignorant, but it's an organized effort to promote themselves by promoting propaganda. And propaganda, I learned a long time ago, does not deceive you. Propaganda doesn't deceive you. It helps you to deceive yourself. And the reason why is because you're not doing anything to question anything. You just listen and believe and go your way until you get to be about 90 years old in an old folks' home, sitting in the back having a cup of tea, and it finally dawns on you at 90 years old, I've never done anything. I've never been anybody. I've never questioned anything. And all the people that I devoted my life to listening to, they're all gone, dead and gone, and everything they've ever told me has now been proven to be untrue. And so I've wasted my life listening to other people who did not know how to find their way out of a paper bag. And so I have pursued knowledge in a different way. I listen to people, and the ones that appeal to my sense of logic and intelligence and can show proof for what they're doing, I begin to collect that kind of knowledge from people and collect their names of where they are, and then I contact them. I go to see them, and then I pursue their work. And I've been doing it for 58 years. My God, I have tales I could tell you that you wouldn't believe, of things that very powerful people in this world that you would not know or wouldn't even think that I would know, conversations I've had with them. And like I said, I'm just startled by the things they tell me. I mean, I've talked with some of the very most powerful people in this world, and the things they tell me in private are actually sometimes frightening. How much they know that they've never told anyone. And so I just fascinated with knowledge, and that's what I do. I try and wake people up to think for themselves. That's all.
I've got a question. I have a question.
It doesn't mean I have an answer.
I'm just so curious. You've had so much exposure to all these super powerful people around the world, and you've known all, their mentality. Like you said, you've had these one-on-one intimate conversations with these people who've done really horrible things. How did you not get sucked into that world? Like, how have you kept, like, to me, I feel like your heart is pure and innocent, and how have you kept that throughout knowing all these really bad and dark people, and even been in, secret societies and been, part of them? Like, how have you not gotten sucked into that?
God protected me because I have a very, very strong and legitimate respect for the universal God force, for the depending on the Spirit to protect me. I try and talk with the Spirit each day and ask the Spirit world to protect me and educate me and show me what I am to do, what I am supposed to learn, and so I've always had cosmic companionship. I depend on the Spirit to protect me. It sounds very religious kind of stuff, but I do believe that there is a divine presence in the universe that dominates our evolution and our destiny. And so I just ask the Spirit continually to protect me and show me what I am to learn and help me to do what I want to do and helping other people. And so I've always considered myself I say many times in my lectures that I'm not the world's foremost authority on anything, period. Because at least I've learned enough to know how much I don't know. And so I'm not an authority, and therefore I don't think of myself as very authoritative. And since I own and have nothing in this world, period, nothing. I don't own anything. I don't have anything. It's very simple. It's very easy to be humble when you don't have anything. And so I love living. I love living that way, though. I love that because this way I don't have to worry about what I'm going to do with my vast fortunes and my business and my children and my homes and all the material things. I have no material things, period. And therefore, you would be frightened to know how much I don't, how many bills I don't have at the end of the month. I don't own anything and not looking for anything. But then again, I have a lot of time to sit and question life and question the legitimacy of the world I live in. And I'm just telling you, if you knew the kind of things that I have been pursuing all my life, it's just extraordinary stuff that I'm filled with rage to tell the people how much they don't know about the world we live in. I mean, how is it, Amy, that you are able to very simply, somebody gives you a name or somebody asks you a question, and you give them spiritual insight into things that they've never thought about before? Well, where does that come from? We know it doesn't come from your mind and it doesn't come from your body. Your brain is like the brain of any other woman. Your body is like the body of any other woman. But then what makes you different from all the other women? My God, there's millions of them. It makes you different. What? We don't know for sure, but I've heard scientists have some very interesting lectures on the subject of where do our thoughts come from. And the scientist was explaining that the human brain does not do anything whatsoever in the relationship to thinking. The human brain is not there for thinking, period. The brain is designed for the humans to control the movement of your body. It controls, you're getting up, you're sitting down, you're going skating, you're doing work, you're doing whatever it is you're doing. Your brain is coordinating your body electrically to do the things that you want to do. But it's not giving you any ideas. Well, then where are your ideas coming from? Well, the scientists will tell you, we don't know. Well, and the first time they're right, they don't know. But I suspect that it comes from somewhere else. And today we have computers, and all these computers, you can get 100 computers and put them all on one Wi-Fi. So all the computers are getting all kinds of different information, hundreds of computers getting different information on each one, but they're all getting from the same source. And so I'm assuming that that's the way human minds are. We're getting information from different sources, or maybe from one source, like a Wi-Fi unit. And so I think that there is something to this idea of God and the Great Spirit, because that's where our thinking comes from. That's what and it operates on us in a very strange way. It lets us do what we think we want to do, but ultimately we will do whatever it is we have been brought here to do. And I like that quotation that said, talent does what it can. Genius does what it must. And therefore, people like the Nikola Teslas and the Royal Wrights and the great minds that have lit the world up and have moved the whole world, they were always very humble people who were leading the world spiritually, and the human race reacted to them. And so I realized that thinking and our thoughts and our imaginations and our dreams and hopes all come from another place in the universe, and we are products of our universe. I mean, if you look at the universe at night and go out and look into the stars, well, how come you are here looking at the stars? Well, it's because you're part of them. You know, and if other people were on a planet 100 light years away and they're out looking at the stars at night, they're seeing you. They don't know you're here, but ultimately, if they knew you were here and could see you, they would see that you're here. And so you are a part of the universe, whether you like it or not. So,
by the way, everybody, we're talking with Jordan Maxwell. And if you want to find out more about him and his incredible research that he's done and all the work that he's done, you can start that search by going to jordanmaxwellshow.com. That's jordanmaxwellshow.com. Amy, do you have another question for Jordan today?
No, but I just recorded a show yesterday, and you've just kind of stacked on it or expanded on it, and basically, I feel like we're just an experiment where these extraterrestrials entertainment, and they're watching us on Earth, and we have, positive influences and negative influences by those cosmic forces. It's almost like a football game, and they're trying to see, will they let evil win or will they let good win? And so when we learn to ignore those negative thoughts or dispel or really analyze and take a look at those negative thoughts and where they're coming from, they are being imposed on us. I'm so glad that you said that about the brain, because it's all happening from other forces, and we pick and choose what we're going to listen to, whether we're going to believe the positive thoughts or we're going to believe the negative thoughts. It's completely up to us, and we have free will. So, good point.
Well, also, I find that there's a lot of extraordinary wisdom in the Bible. Well, today, scriptures are not really of any importance to the world we live in today, but I am very fascinated with the wisdom that the ancients and the prehistoric and ancient peoples of the world knew. because the idea that we are given is a lie. It's not true at all. We're given to understand that we today are the pinnacle of success in God's creation in the world that we live in. We are the ultimate, wisest, most impressive life forms in the universe today. We can't do what an ant does. We have no idea in the world how to do anything that insects do. We live in a world of chaos and bus crashes and plane crashes and wars and violence and stupidity and alcoholism and drugs. And yet we think of ourselves as the most brilliant creation on the earth. Well, in point of fact, that's not true. And I know it's not true, and a lot of people suspect it isn't. We are actually devolving. We're getting stupider by the day. So that today, around the world, people have no ability to think for themselves. That's why when I hear people bragging about artificial intelligence, and we have artificial intelligence and computers, etc., that can think for themselves, and I think to myself, that's a wonderful that we have computers that can think for themselves, because the people can't. The people are not able to think for themselves. They just go along to get along. They don't know. They never know what the president's doing. They have no idea what the government's doing. They have no idea who they're paying taxes to. They don't actually have any idea about much of anything. But that's all right. They don't really need to, because they got plenty of sports and alcohol and liquor stores on every corner, and they got plenty to entertain themselves with TV and alcoholism and parties. And so one day the whole human family are going to slowly but surely come to a place in reality where it's going to dawn on everyone that we're lost. We have no idea in the world who we are, what we're doing, where we've come from, and why we're here. And when that time comes, it's going to be a rude awakening for the world of mankind, when you find out that your whole life has been dedicated to listening to other goofballs who do not know the way out of a paper bag. And you have lived your whole life depending on them to explain to you life, and they don't know for nothing. So I just decided I want to do my own thinking. Let me give you an idea about what I'm talking about. I was born and raised a Catholic, and so that was not my fault. But I was born and raised a Catholic, and in the Catholic Church, one of the teachings is that if you are really a bad person, and when you died, you were really a very sinful person, that your spirit, when you die, your body dies, but your spirit lives on. It's an immortal spirit, and so you live on forever. And so the Catholic Church teaches that if you are evil, when you die, your spirit will go to hell, and your spirit will burn in hell forever. And that scared the peawads out of kings and princes and all the so-called royalty of the world. They were frightened to death of that. And so the church held a lot of power over the kings and rulers, because all the church has got to do is say, is talk to God and tell him you've been bad, and now you will die and go to hell and burn forever. And so when I was about 9 years old, I as a Catholic kid, we had something called confirmation service. And that is when you're 8 or 9 or 10 years old in the Catholic Church, you have a ritual that you go through, and it's called confirmation, where you are confirmed a Catholic according to the church rules and regulations. And so we were told in the Catholic school, we were told that tomorrow night, the nuns said, tomorrow night at the confirmation service, the bishop is going to confirm all of you as Catholic, all of you children. And then he might ask you, maybe not, but he might ask you if you have any questions to ask your bishop. Now that you're confirmed a Catholic, your bishop can answer questions for you. And so if he asks you, if you have any questions, just remember you don't have any questions at all. You keep your mouth shut. You don't have any questions. So the following night, after the service was over, the bishop did ask the children if they had any questions. He would try and answer them. And so we knew we're not supposed to ask anything. So I stood up so everyone would know who I am. And I asked him, I said, my father works with torches like a welder. And I said, if I were holding a torch and the torch was burning, and if an angel appeared to me, could I hit the angel with a torch? And would that hurt him if I burned him? If an angel appeared to me and I had a torch, would it hurt him? And the bishop said, no, of course not. And I said, why not? And he said, well, because, angels are spirits. And you can't even see a spirit, much less burn one. And I said, if I'm seeing one, and there's an angel standing next to me, if I have a torch, could I burn him? Would it hurt him? And he said, no. I said, then why? And he said, because angels are spirits, and you can't burn a spirit. You can't. It takes wood or paper or plastic or something like that to burn. So you can't burn a spirit. And I said, well, why am I worried about going to hell? Well, my spirit will burn forever if you can't burn a spirit. And everybody in the church looked at me like a deer in the headlights. Nobody had ever thought about that. It's so incredibly simple. A 9-year-old could think about it, but most adults, they've given their whole life to a church and haven't got the faintest idea in the world what's being said and the ideas that are being expressed. So after that, I began to realize that the church is nothing more than just a social club like the Cub Scouts and the Girl Scouts and the ladies club. It's just a nice social arrangement. It makes everybody feel happy and feel like they've done something important. They don't know what they're doing, but at least it makes them feel good. And so I started dropping Alka-Seltzer in the holy water and gave up on the whole thing. And because I realized these people don't know what they're doing. I mean, I'm just a little kid and I'm asking questions and nobody has any answers. And so, I don't know, it's just incredible to me how much adults don't know, how much people don't know. And we don't care to know. It's not important unless, of course, you are called to court and you're going into court to and you got charges against you that are very heavy charges are being against you, and you could go to jail for 30 years. You could go to prison for a lifetime. And now you're scared. Now you want to know. Now you need to get a good lawyer, get the right lawyers because you're in trouble, very big trouble. And you could go to jail for 40 years, 30 years. You could go to prison. So now, all of a sudden, life is a reality now. Now you're in trouble. And so now what do you have to do? Well, you got to go to somebody who's got an education, who knows how to help you. And so I realized that a long time ago. No, the only way to help yourself is to educate yourself and start reading and studying and questioning everything. And the first thing you need to question in this world is authority. Because the princes and kings and rulers will tell you that they have a divine right. We have a divine right to rule. Divine implies that God has put you there. Well, that's what the scripture says. God has put me here. Well, first of all, you need to question, what God are you talking about? Because the particular group that wrote that particular book, they have their God, and so maybe I don't want anything to do with their God. So what is there? Is there one almighty God in the universe? I don't know. But whatever it is, God's too big for one religion. And so my feeling is that you need to go back and start doing research on the etymology of words and ideas and belief systems. And, if you go to church, a new church you go to, people in the church will ask you, "Oh, are you a believer? And how long have you been a believer?" Because that's what Christians are referred to as believers. Why? Why? Because they don't know anything. They believe. And so you're a believer. Myself, I just thought it would be kind of strange and interesting. Why don't you just actually get an education so you know? You don't have to believe anything. You know. I mean, the governments of the United States and all over the world, governments are not interested in what to believe. They're tapping your life and your lines and finding out exactly who you are and precisely what you are doing. They don't want to believe you're okay. They want to damn well know who you are. And so that's my thinking. I don't care what you believe. I want to know. I want to question everything. And the more I question, the more I find, the more I'm amazed at how much people just really have let go by and not ask themselves any important questions. So I just do what I do. I figure when I'm gone, nobody will care much anyway, but I did the best I could to awaken the world of mankind around me to the fact that we don't know what's going on. And one day soon we're going to come face to face with that reality, and then we're going to be in trouble. Right now, as long as we've got plenty of alcohol and games and sports and entertainment, everything's fine. But if we ever have a 12 on the Richter scale that shuts down the electricity, and all of a sudden the lights go off and all the electricity's gone, and that means no more food, no more communication, no more phones. All of a sudden you're going to wake up in the middle of the dark in a terrible tragedy and find out, you're in trouble. You have no idea where to go. You have no concept in your mind as to what to do to save your life and your family. So I've just been doing that kind of thinking all my life, and I just try and help other people to wake up and start thinking on their own. That's who I am, and that's what I do.
And we are talking to Jordan Maxwell. Go to his website, which is jordanmaxwellshow.com, and that's the beginning of your search, so you can learn all about the things that he's been doing for the last 58 years to improve the knowledge of the planet and where we're going from here. Jordan, we're running out of time for this podcast, but I want to ask you, can we have you back and kind of break down some of the things that you've discovered over the years and take them a little bit piece by piece?
Oh, I would love doing that. Absolutely. That would be a great idea. I love doing that because, as you probably have already noticed, I can talk all day. I love talking to people. And, and when I'm not talking to people, I sit and talk to myself. And, and I know myself so well. If I don't like the subject, I don't bring it up. I'm not offending me. And I'm not going to try and lie to myself because I know what I'm doing. And so I think that would be a fun thing to do, is just go through some of the just interesting little things that people have never thought about, like where did your government come from and where are you going to go when you leave this world? And as a matter of fact, where did you come from to start with? And so that would be that would be a fun thing to do. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that anytime.
Oh, awesome. Amy, any last thoughts before we go?
Just thank you so much for coming on the show. I've loved having you. That was awesome.
And
I appreciate being on the show with you, Amy. I just do a lot of gabbing. I just do a lot of talking. I know most people are thinking just some old man rattling off about something bold that has nothing to do with anything. It has nothing to do with the Dodgers or the football game or who the president is. But me, I've looked at the history of the world for thousands and thousands of years. I've gone into all the sacred writings of the ancient world, and I just realize how shallow we as human beings really are. And we're like children. And as a matter of fact, the U.S. government has a law. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but there's some interesting laws the government has. One of them is called parent patriae. There's a law called parent patriae, which means the U.S. government is your parent, period, end of sentence. Your government, the U.S. government is your parent. It can do whatever it wants with you because they own you. They think for you, they feed you, they protect you, and they own you. They are your parent. You don't like that? Well, yeah, well, tell the president. Tell him that you don't like what he's doing, and he will throw you into prison because he don't care what you don't like. And so that's interesting. And then there's another law that says that the United States government must, under any and all conditions, no matter what happens on the earth or in the universe, the United States government by law must continue to operate, period, with no end in sight. It must. So no matter what you have to do, you better keep the United States government going, period. End of sentence. A lot of people don't know that. I mean, Russia didn't, Soviet Union didn't have that law, so they're gone. and Adolf Hitler had a lot of ideas, but he didn't have that idea, and so he's gone. But the United States government has a law that says they must continue, period, forever, end of sentence. A lot of people don't know that. So.
I didn't know that.
There's a lot of things people don't know.
Well, you don't know what you don't know until you know it.
That's right. And you have to explain to people how ignorant they are before they know how ignorant they are. And then they begin to see how much they don't know. I mean, people talk about the 10 Commandments, and Moses have no idea in the world that there was no 10 Commandments, that there was 12 negative confessions. And 2 of those negative confessions were dropped, and then they changed the name and called it the 10 Commandments. No, there was 12 negative confessions. Go look it up in the dictionary, and you will see that the Egyptians had 12 negative confessions. And so we today take those 12 negative confessions and turn them backwards and call it the 10 Commandments. I mean, if you think about the movie Indiana Jones, a classic example. I mean, Steven Spielberg is a lot of things, but stupid isn't one of them. And he had a movie came out called Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. And so the U.S. government comes to Indiana Jones and they say to him, we, the U.S. government, are ordering you to go out and find the lost Ark of the Covenant of the Hebrews. Go out and find it because Adolf Hitler wants it, and the Russians want it, and the Jews were looking for it, and everybody wants it, but we, the U.S. government, we demand to have it. So you get up and go out and find it and bring it back to us, period. And you notice we didn't ask, we're telling you. And so Indiana Jones is the only one who could find the lost Ark of the Covenant. And so where does he go? The first place, the intelligent scientific mind like Indiana Jones who knows where to go to find things. Where does he go to look for the lost Ark of the Covenant of the Hebrews? He goes to Tibet. Has anybody ever wondered why Indiana Jones went to Tibet? He's going into the Himalaya mountains of northern China and northern India and southern China and to Tibet to find the lost Ark of the Hebrews? No, nobody ever thought about that. I did. What's he going to Tibet for? I thought he was going to the Holy Land. No, he's not going to the Holy Land because there's nothing holy in the Holy Land. The only thing holy in the Holy Land are the stories that come out of it. They're full of holes. No, he's going to where if you want to find the lost Ark of the Covenant, you better go to Tibet first. And then when you go to Tibet, you're looking for the first clue, and then he finds it. And now the Nazis are looking for the Lost Ark, and they're in Tibet, because they're not stupid either. And so they're looking for the Lost Ark in Tibet. But when they both find out, Indiana Jones gets what he needs. Now he's got what he needs to find the Lost Ark, and he found the key in Tibet. And so now he's going to find the Lost Ark. Where does he go? To the Holy Land? No. To Jerusalem? No. But where he did go, he found the Lost Ark. Where did he go to find it? Egypt. He went to Egypt to find it, not the Holy Land, because it has nothing to do, the Lost Ark of the Covenant has nothing to do with being Hebrew, Jewish, or the Holy Land, Israel, period. End of sentence. It has nothing to do with the history of the Jewish people and the old world of Israel, the ancient world of Israel. Why? Because Steven Spielberg knows what I know. There was no ancient Israel, period. I know, sounds crazy, but it's true. There was no ancient Israel. There was no King Solomon. There was no King David. There was no Holy Ark of the Covenant. There was no, all of those wonderful stories in the Old Testament are just stories. This is why the Bible is called the greatest story ever told. It's not the greatest collection of historical facts ever assembled. It's the greatest story ever told. And once you begin to understand it's just a story, it never happened. But it's an encoded story. It's telling you the real story, but it's encoded. You've heard of the Bible code? Yeah, well, there's a bigger code that you miss completely. The entire story in the New Testament of Jesus, that entire work we call the New Testament, is an encoded story. And the more you get into it, look at the etymology of the words and the terms and the symbols, you begin faintly to see developing a whole story that you've never heard before. And so I'm fascinated with what I have found out about the Bible and who wrote it, and what the words really mean, and where that really comes from. And so I just think to myself, if the people of this world actually knew what is actually in the Bible, the Judeo-Christian Bible, in both the Old and New Testament, they would be shocked. Most of them would be so ashamed of what they're reading and ashamed of themselves for not seeing it. So that's what I do. I try to wake people up very tactfully so they don't have a fit and fall over. But it's incredible how much people don't know. When you start looking into the Bible and looking into the ancient world of religions and theology, it's just exciting, the world of mankind and the world we live in. I'm fascinated with how much we don't know. So I don't know where to go from here. We could talk probably for hours. I could. Tell me. Well, I don't know about anybody else, but I could.
Well, what we need to do, Jordan, is book you on to the show and discuss with you what we're going to break down, and because the subject matter that you talk about is so broad and has so many facets to it, and from the government to religion to spirituality to taxes to money to all of these things, we need to break it down and take a little piece at a time so that we can give you the time to be able to dissect each one. And it's kind of like we'll go into an operating room and we'll kind of dissect each piece of that in separate episodes. Does that make sense?
Well, that's good. That's a good analogy, because that's the way the world works. It's made up of so many small, tiny pieces, and each one, if taken by itself, is a mind trip. Just one little thing that happens in the world that It's such a mind trip, and then add the whole thing together, and that's why humans can't wrap their mind around the world they live in. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Back in the 1800s, I don't remember exactly when, but back in the 1800s, it snowed very heavily in London. And the morning, everyone woke up after the snow all night, and all of London was covered with snow. And they found, and this was in newspapers and magazines and reported widely, just one small little thing that nobody's ever heard of, is not important at all. But I thought it was interesting that the people of London woke up to find, after the snow, that there were little tiny footprints about 1.5 inches to 2 inches long, and about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch deep in the snow. Little tiny footprints. And they went from one side of London to the other side of London in a straight line. And these little footprints went from one side of the great city to the other side of the great city. And they were little tiny footprints that went through the snow. But the crazy part was that they went in a laser straight line. So that if they would come up to a house or a car or whatever it was, in that way, they would go up the side, over it, and down it, and then keep going straight. So they never went around anything. They went straight up and straight down and across London. And so there was a lot of talk and photography and lots of people talking about the footprints in London. Where did they come from, these little tiny footprints that walked across London? Well, of course, it's not important in relation to basketball and football, and so nobody give a damn. I just thought that's interesting. Little footprints that went across London in the snow in a straight line. Who did that? How was it done? Obviously, somebody is trying to tell us how much we don't know. Somebody's playing with us, just like the crop circles are today. Somebody's playing with us, and we're too ignorant and ill-informed and self-centered to know it. So anyway, we can always talk later. I'm delighted to be with you.
Jordan, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, and Jordan Maxwell has been our guest. Go to his website, jordanmaxwellshow.com, and begin your search with him and your exploration of all that is. That's where he has assembled a great deal of information, and that's where you start. jordanmaxwellshow.com. Jordan, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Amy, any last thoughts before we go?
Just thank you.
All I would say is that if you're really interested in the world that I live in, then just join my research society. It's on Jordan Maxwell Show. There's a link that says Jordan Maxwell Research website. Join it, and you will see the kind of stuff I've been doing all my life. Anyway, thank you for allowing me to be on the show, and we can do it anytime. Always happy to be on the show.
You're awesome. And Amy, thank you very much. Amy?
Thank you. Yes, thank you guys.
Very good. Well, we're going to wrap up this podcast. Hey, do something nice for yourself today. Do something nice for somebody else. Be positive, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time on The Satori Show.
Hi, my name is Kevin McDonald, and I need to tell you a story about my friend Amy Satori. You see, I've known Amy for many years and have watched her develop from a spiritual seeker to an unbelievable spiritual powerhouse. She spent a long time understanding, appreciating, and using her God-given talents to help people become the best that they can be. She's able to touch people in amazing ways, helping us to realize the potential we all have inside. Her gift is to communicate with and interpret for the spirit guides, our past loved ones, pets, both past and present, and even unicorns, fairies, and leprechauns. Yes, we have a show dedicated to them. All designed to help us understand what's happening in our lives. She's even able to give us exercises and programs to help us grow and improve our reality day to day. Amy has helped corporate executives, students, celebrities, writers, producers, athletes, Nobel Peace Prize winners, and even judges. She works with clients all over the world, both in person and over the phone. So if you want to talk with Amy to explore what's going on in your life, you can by going to www.amysatori.com and book a private session with her. Or call the show each Sunday from noon to 1 Mountain Time at 256-291-1191. Again, that number is 256-291-1191. Or go to www.satorishow.podbean.com and view and download our previous shows. Many people listen over and over again, gaining new insights and understanding each time. Oh, and if you find this information helpful or just entertaining, please share the site and information with your family and friends. Thank you so much for joining and supporting us. And remember to do something good for yourself today. Do something nice for somebody else. Be positive and have a great day.